Podcast initiating in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the TrollBox Podcast, Episode 3. I am joined today by Joskye, who I met in the Particl chat room. How you
Hey,
doing?
I'm good. Good to
Good.
meet you, man.
Good. Today, unfortunately, it looks like Dealer won't be making it, but who knows, he might pop on a little bit later in the cast. So, yeah. Let's get started.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a real sort of pleasure chatting to you on the Particl forums on Riot. That was it's really glad of you, firstly, to invite me today. I suppose you want to know a little bit of me. I frequent the Reddit subs. I post as Joskye, and I started currency trading around 9 months ago, back in July of 2016. What brought me back into it was Ethereum. I was around during Bitcoin, and I knew it was going to go up and didn't buy in, and that was painful for a bit. But randomly Ether appeared, got into it, found the whole space, the whole smart contracts and blockchain technology. Really, it took me a good month of solid reading daily to get my around it. But when I did, I really could see the potential. Yeah, through that, got to sort of trading, made tons of mistakes, which is always the way with when you don't have a background in finance or trading. But if you kind of just sort of persevere that to people, people in these communities I find that they've been very helpful, that they sort of share a lot of insights. And it got to a stage where actually I was good enough at making decent longs that I felt comfortable, sort of saying, how do you identify things? And I wound up writing a basic guide to investing in cryptocurrencies, which you can Google, the Intelligent Investor's Guide to Cryptocurrencies. It's on the Crypto Trader subreddit, Cash subreddit. The one that's new entering this good guide, where and how to value a project. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we'll also link those with this so that listeners can check it out right from listening. So.
But yeah, I mean, whatever you want to talk about today. But is there anything particular you want to go?
Well, I want to discuss the issues that Monero is dealing with currently. They discovered some early transaction linkability issues, I saw.
Yeah, that came across my radar yesterday.
Yeah, they were mentioning that, actually.
Onto that, and I was trying to read the white paper that but it was literally not kind of going through. And then I saw a tweet saying that server was under a bit kind of funny to me. It was also kind of funny watching like the price suddenly do a nosedive within that hour, corrected back upward. But again, I was quite concerned. Have you had a chance to read through that paper by any chance?
I have not, but I've been big on Monero for a while. I probably should. But they did have a successful hard fork yesterday. I'm not sure if that took care of those issues, but maybe that's why it was performed.
Fair dues. I mean, I hope so. I'm not like in a position to sort of comment and judge because I don't follow their forums closely enough. What I will say is I actually got into Monero right before it did its big pump, just before the Alpha Bay announcement came out. Now, I only got in with a small stack of Bitcoin, so in return, I didn't make an amazing amount of money, but I was happy. When it went all the way up to about $15 back in December time, I think. I can't remember. No, before that was back in about August time. It kicked in for me, which is that Alpha. So it was actually not Alpha Bay, it was Alpha Bay and Oasis, and it came up net markets, and literally literally market that I've heard of has gotten taken down eventually. And I thought to myself, if there's an exit scam, that fundamental premise of its newfound value is gone. So I sold sold fairly high at the top, and then not long afterwards, Oasis did do an. I remained bearish on Monero. My cash at the same time, just before it had pumped. I bought a small stack, and when I looked into both products, I for Monero at that time were made clear. But whereas I looked at Shadow Cash and I really got into the idea of a decentralized darknet marketplace, so
Yeah.
market as an intentional shift, but it's the idea that, you know, when it was around, when it started getting used on Silk Road, that's when it gained traction. So Bitcoin was just a plaything, you know, back in 2010 or whatever. But as soon as it kind of would market itself and gain the air of being an anonymous currency for all, and Silk Road started using it and people started transacting, then it gained like non-speculative revenues and it gained non-speculative value. And that really was the big clue to say this thing's going to shoot up in value, because people, even if they're going to use it to do nefarious things, they're still going to use it to do settlements. So you could kind of see. Now, I didn't even wasn't reading that Bitcoin and Silk Road when I looked in Bitcoin. I simply saw a model of scarcity and had no physical property, and I could see there. Because, you know, there's a need for those sorts of things. There's a need to transact value in a very, so I was going to say, there's a need to transact value in a decentralized way with security, with anonymity. So yeah, was the idea of, well, should I hold Monero, whose value could go taken down? Why don't I put my eggs into the basket? Oh. So, yeah, no, I was going to say, why should I put my eggs into the basket of Monero, which was fundamentally dependent on a centralized architecture, i.e. centralized websites, when I could put my money on this potential service that's decentralized and could draw lots of non-speculative fiat into its sphere.
Right.
And I could see real value. Now, obviously, Monero's gone on to go, you know, do really strong. And, you know, now that I've shifted away more from an investment mindset to a trader mindset, I look at charts like Monero, zoom out at the sort of the 3 month, the 6 month, the 1 month, and the couple of week charts, and I just see like a nice upward tangent, and I can see that to me that going on, and that it's actually getting as an adoption, and people are using it more and more to transact. From a very emotionally distanced term, I kind of have a bullish error, but you know, the interactions I've had with members, not all, but some members, have been less than satisfactory or less than polite. So, you know, you hear a lot of things about members in their community, and my experience, I think there's some it's actually really bad for it. Is, you know, you've got, and excuse my bearish sentiments because the chart on Monero looks good, and I've come to the belief that it can overcome any. I'm increasingly of the view that charts can overcome anything, at least for a period of time. So right. If you kind of look for a period of time over the next month or so, I really like the look of Monero. But if you are 6 months to a year down the line, I'd say no. Community has some really, which is true of all communities, but it really stuck out. To their recent sort of issues with getting adopted on Jax. I read through some of the correspondence there, and what I basically read of that was that because they'd implemented Ring CT, Jax had to go back to square one. Jax were having some unfortunate dealings with members of the Monero community who they felt were being unfriendly and unhelpful to them. The dialogue was to be honest. If you read the actual between Fluffy Pony and Richard Diorio, you can kind of see a lot of visible tension there. And that's not really good because this because of adoption. They gain value because of adoption and use. So if your currency is really ported onto third-party platforms and applications, then you're going to shorter space and to the broader sort of user space, and that will be a long-term inhibitor of growth. You also factor that in with the fact that Ethereum is going to be implementing ZK snarks on its chain at some point. Now, bearing in mind that Ethereum's already going to be live in May, because clearly they're seeing what the future is, and the fact that if you've got optional anonymity of sort of that level is similar. I still think Monero's privacy is useless, but, you know, obfuscate the sender, the receiver, using a Zcash to a chain as powerful as Ethereum may be a serious competitor to Monero's long-term interests. But if you say you're going to buy Monero now and hold it for a month, I think it'll go up in value if you kind of can withstand the volatility. And it might be true for the next few months. And certainly if you look at Bitcoin, that's the case. You know, just as a comparison in terms of, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the chart's looking, it's looking profitable right now. I mean, right now it's sitting about 175, that being 1,075,000 for Satoshis. I think there's room for profit on that. One coin that I've been kind of bullish on lately is ARK.
Yeah. I charts about, well, the day before, yeah. And the accumulation is so obvious. It's been accumulated 2 weeks, and accumulating within suppressed price ranges for about a week. If you looked through the order book for a few days, and I think that's the thing, when you're kind of decide whether to buy, you kind of need to just, if you're early enough, you just want to watch those order books for a couple of days, and you could see people were putting up buy walls and sell walls to keep the price within a certain range. Obvious, that's an accumulation tactic. I've seen it before. Competitors trying to do what ARK's doing in terms of the sort of interoperability of blockchain, but in terms of raw trading dynamics right now, it's due to go up.
Yeah, I was actually watching a little live stream yesterday. I think it was actually posted in Particl. I think it was Mike Doty on there, the head of ARK. They have some interesting things, like their voting system is different. It's more of an even playing field, where they distribute the voting weight across all votes, and they have some cool things. I think they were even talking about doing offline transactions using like different frequencies, like in a device, which that sounds kind of interesting.
Oh, so like an Internet of Things thing whereby the transactions on that chain. Yeah, okay, that's quite cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely something to it there. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into them a little bit more.
I think I'll look into it a bit more. I definitely respect the value of the winning interoperability chain, because I think there's going to be a few solutions like this that will link up different chains. I'll be honest, I don't know too much about the sort of the technical, not technical trading, but the technical as in software programming aspects of ARK. The one thing I was under the impression is this, correct me if I'm wrong, or if you don't know, say, but are different blockchains meant to change their code base in some way to plug into ARK, or is there some other mechanism to allow for that interoperability?
You know, I'm honestly not 100% on that. I know their goal is to bridge other blockchain technologies, but I don't know exactly how they're going to do that. Like I said, I'm going to look into them a little bit more. I kind of jumped the gun and bought some, which I'm happy about because it's already gone up quite a bit.
When I bought it 2 days ago, I said 30,000 satoshis. I'll think about 11. You're dead right, man. The technical analysis. I never lost 2 months where after daily looking at I'm a stubborn guy. You can look at the charts every day, and after a while, you can. And I'll say this: it goes back to what happened with SDC and their March 17th announcement. You know, when you build up lots of expectations towards an event, you can kind of get sucked into the ecosphere of one thing and just kind of focus a lot of energy onto it. And I think SDC is great, and actually what I think it's become is even better. And I'll get onto that later. But yeah, when you're just looking at when you've got so many different cryptocurrencies, seriously, the charts, they can tell you so much. Yeah, and with ARK's chart was due to go up. Yeah, and I agree. But I don't know how high it's going to go. You got any thoughts?
You know what? I'm not even 100% sure what the supply is, but after listening to that little interview thingy yesterday, I feel like there's room for it to go up a bit more. It kind of came out of nowhere for me. I mean, I hadn't really heard much of it other than before that. So.
I mean, for me, it was just a case of a couple of the guys had been talking about it on the Particl source, on the Particl Slack. It's a really nice little Slack channel, because you've got like a really nice bunch of traders in the Shadow Cash forum. Even though the Shadow Cash project per se is going to be dead in about 3 hours' time to give way for Particl, that forum's turned into a nice little altcoin discussion thread. So some guys like 2Qs, he brought ARK to my attention because he bought a bunch of it, and obviously these guys were rooting for it to go up. This is around 4,000 satoshis. So all due credit to 2Qs for making the call on that one. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of this time you just chat about things with people, and they'll bring, if you kind of just speak your mind, eventually, you talk about your long positions and what you think and why, and eventually people will just start bringing their ideas to you as well. So
that's true. Yeah, it's definitely the best way to learn is just to talk to others about it. I mean, when I first started, I wasn't really trading with anybody, and then actually through chatting on the TrollBoxes, I kind of met a few people here and there that had some cool views, or they were just interesting people with that were involved in different projects and whatnot. And then from there, I kind of just picked up things from them and shared my own thoughts, and it was a good time.
Yeah, I think as you open up, the world will open up to you. And actually, while you mention it, with there's a guy on those there that I spoke to, Pokemon69. He was calling for PivX at 10 cents. I really regret he was pointing this out when it was 10 cents. So I knew about PivX at 10 cents, and I knew PivX was basically copying the Dash model. When I looked into it, I was like, this is a Dash clone, and Dash has just gone up massively, and people are going to want to look for the next Dash, so they're going to look at PivX. The only thing, I bought like a tiny amount, and I, instead of treating it like something I should hold for about 3 weeks to a month, I tried to play it as a literal day trader off the swings, got frustrated, and didn't really go in as hard as I could have. I did go in fairly early still, but some of these guys, they will make incredible calls, and it's just about finding, like, listening to them, because usually, if you ask them, why have you made this decision, a lot of the time they'll be polite and they'll just tell you. And if that makes sense, if argument that they, for me, PivX was stacked through its masternode system where it locks up liquidity. So there's a supply shock. There's very little on the market for trade, and because it locks up that money in masternodes and pays a higher rate of interest than to lend it to an exchange, it's much more profitable to buy enough to hold a masternode and make your interest rather than to buy some and then loan it on exchanges where it can get shorted, which is why Dash was incredibly hard to short, because it was just more profitable to stake it and go long. It was simple supply economics. And now PivX doesn't go faster. It's really obvious. To me, it makes sense because it all comes down to the idea of market cap and liquidity. Now, Dash at the comparable points, Dash had 7 million coins, PivX had 70 million coins, so 10 times the supply. Now, all that basically means is for a given spot price, the market cap of Dash is $7 million, whereas PivX at $1 gives PivX a market cap of $70 million. Now, when you're a trader and you're not looking at anything else other than market cap, you'll go, holy shit, this thing's going up in market cap value. And you go, oh, this is a good coin to buy. It has liquidity. I'm sure I can just buy and sell this easily within a given price range. Or, oh, it must be performing. If you'll be like, oh, this must be performing well. Its market cap's shooting up. But all that's just is finding that right balance between coins to just kind of the sweet spot. Things like Ripple get enough respect because they have 1 billion coins in circulation. As the price goes up by 0.0001%, the market cap multiple. If anything, the better sum to use is the actual price over the market cap. So you get a ratio of that sort of spot price relative to market cap, and that's a comparison between different cryptocurrencies using those two metrics than looking up alone, because market cap's derived. So anyway, PivX has made use of an increased coin supply psychologically. It's made use of market cap as a psychological measure, and it's tweaked its coin supply to take advantage to allow for faster growth. Now, PivX is great because you've got liquidity there as well. And going back to this point, it will expand rapidly because it will draw more it will draw more people in to buy it through that mechanism, through that psychology mechanism. So you could kind of, if you know these things, you can kind of see them coming. And then all it comes down to is whether you've got the guts to make a buy big enough and act on it. Because half the time, you might find your intuitions are right. At least your intellectual ones, whereas your emotional way, the FOMOs, oh shit, it's gone up, now I've got to buy because it might go up even more. If you'd taken a few steps back and looked at the coin way back when and gone, special here, I just have to sit back and wait, then you kind of let time play out.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but that's kind of what I think.
Sorry, you're cutting out a little bit.
Oh no. But I mean, feel free. I'm fairly bullish on PivX. That's a short-term thing, and I think PivX, in order for it to succeed, I know that 10% of the stakes that are minted on the PivX chain to some sort of funding platform to help, further the development of PivX as a platform. Kind of like a development budget, basically. 10% of all minted stakes. I think this is a great idea. This is the same mechanism that Dash uses. Dash is using its little war chest, its development fund, to try and push itself as a currency with NFC card readers, with various sort of partnership programs, etc. And that's great because Dash wants to be a currency. But my thinking here is that, PivX, these models where you've got these little war chests of resources building up automatically and not growing just in size over time as the number of stakes as the sheer number of coins in that stack go, but exponentially as the value of each coin goes up, because obviously these systems, they create self-perpetuating demand, so you can see all the value go up on an exponent. People have finally clocked onto this after Dash won, which is why PivX is doing it, which is why Decred did this, because they use the same model as. And I think even Stratus has literally said they're a master node yesterday. They literally said we're using master node, and I think this will only work so many times before people get fed up and start calling these coins pump and dump scams, because many are going to be just that. And I am still not done. Can be that. And my simple reasoning is this: you've got that little chain of accumulative funds which are going up by number and appreciation. Use those millions of dollars. Let's not try and be a currency here. Let's buy real estate with that. Let's see if we can fund sort of local prizes. Let's give a little something to the art sector. Let's use that money to actually regenerate the in an economically sustainable way. Let's use it to fund real economy. Buy shares in those projects that we fund. PivX blockchain, for example, makes money. All the holders of PivX, the value of that chain intrinsically goes up in a non-speculative way. It goes up in a real way, and it's the sort of thing then when you've got like a chain, like if you can work out the legals, if you've got a chain that has its own built-in bank account that's growing in value and investing wisely into real-world projects, everyone that's not involved in currency is going to look at your chain and go, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a nice decentralized to build a centralized corporation. It was the idea behind the DAO, which initially manipulation and idealism propelled ETH from $1 to 10. But PivX has a real opportunity to be a real-world DAO. And if they can find a way for a blockchain to legally shares in a company or legally own real estate or legally own real-world assets and it's similar to corporations. A person can own land, but likelihood a corporation can hold. Both the corporation and the person are treated as a legal living entity in some sense. So, why if corporation can be a person in the sense of why can't a blockchain do this? And I'd like to see some legal heads I'd like to see some smart entrepreneurial people make this happen, because the blockchain that work like PivX, Stratus, and now Stratus, they have the real potential to be this and be something more than a dump scam or a Ponzi, which is what a lot of people are saying these things are and have to be.
Now, one thing that I think one barrier they'll have to cross is figuring out how to get a blockchain to pay taxes on property. I think that's a barrier. But it's possible. I mean, with smart contracts and everything, it really shouldn't be difficult to do that. It's kind of strange to think about, but
it is. I think it's possible. I think you're funny. I'm glad you're mentioning tax of all things, because it leads back into my thoughts on the Particl project and its biggest potential. But it's this idea that the only blockchain in the UK, if you look at the law, there's a document dated to the year 2014 released by the UK government from that's our tax branch, which basically says Bitcoin is like an asset. It's not a currency, it's an asset. So you pay capital tax if you make money trading from it, whereas you don't, But so before I kind of lose my train of thought here, you pay capital gains tax on this, and that creates they've recently said Bitcoin's a currency. The law in Japan is specific to Bitcoin. At least as far as I'm aware, it's specific to Bitcoin. Whereas the law in the document, and I can give you the link at the end, it looks like it applies to cryptocurrency. This is for Bitcoin and other related technologies. This is not currencies. So it's, I guess, a slight tangent. If going to be executing trades because in things that are formally recognized as currency, but instead in things that are recognized as assets, what do you pay? Is it, in your locality? As far as I can see in the British locality, if I am using cryptocurrency to purchase real world goods, at my current interpretation, this is not the HMRC's advice, but this is the way I'm interpreting it, is that if I purchase a sofa with half a Bitcoin, then actually, if I purchase like something simple, like something else, like if I purchase with a Bitcoin, then the tax that I'm subject to pay as far as or the tax to the buyer or the tax to the seller, even the seller, do they have to charge the various taxes related to selling cigarettes, legally recognized currency? So really, that point, a case of, well, the seller, he receives some Bitcoin and then he converts it to fiat and pays capital gains tax only, or actually, are we going to say these things are currencies and then apply all the other taxes? And that's not something that's really been addressed, and it creates a bit of a gray area, which I think decentralized marketplaces can really make the most of. And I think, certainly from where I stand, I can see lots of large wholesalers who do bulk settlement of trading of goods, is a way to make your tax affairs more tax efficient. I'm not going to make it here. When I talk about before, and I've been accused of promoting tax or something illegal, I want to say there's avoidance and tax evasion. Tax avoidance is all about paying the fair amount of tax that you are legally required. So it's about being legal, but being intelligent about, what laws you use to only pay the actual tax, the absolute minimum, the absolute maximum of tax that you really have to just pay no more than you have to in tax. Whereas with tax evasion, you'll use a number of illegal methods outright to basically pay less tax than what any legal mechanism in place would allow you to do. What I see with cryptocurrencies right now is that a lot of these, especially, something like Particl with the decentralized marketplace that they're going to be hopefully having a beta route in by the end of the year. I see a scenario in which you could approach, CEOs of wholesalers or various retail chains and say, hey, look, this may be a way to make organizations a lot more tax efficient. And I think there's a lot of money for corporations and companies to save, which can then potentially, as a savings, be passed back onto the end users, or as profits be passed back onto them. And if companies can make more costs, they will use your service. Blockchain technology is going to be very valuable. That's why I actually am quite big on the concept of blockchain acquisition of real world assets, because I think do so. Be a very nice way to make the distributed ownership of those assets really much more accessible to people, because it takes half an hour to set up a Bittrex account and buy PivX, whereas setting up a stock brokerage, and I have these, that will take you a couple of days a week, and there's lots of there's a lot more you have to go through in terms of measures, and they are designed to protect you. But at the same time, I think these decentralized governance really remove a lot of the remove a need for some of the regulations that are there as well. I'm not saying, that can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. But I see a lot of potential to this.
Yeah. It's interesting.
By the way, sorry if when I kind of get started, I can really...
No, keep going. This is your platform today. You can say whatever you'd like.
I mean, look, if you want purely as a trader, I'm actually really bullish on Particl for this reason. I think if people can see the value of that project, and provided now risk period with something like Particl is they've completed their third milestone, they've raised the $750,000. By the way, I was an SDC holder when I wrote the Intelligent Investors Guide. In that guide at the end of every article, these from around December to February, by March, that SDC was going to be the best currency of that period. Now it was quite a claim for me to make because I could see the potential, and I have no direct affiliation to the team. I don't work for them. I don't get paid by them. I simply made a judgment call. Now, if you followed my advice and bought SDC, and actually I even 48 SDC pumped from $170 to about $5-6, 48 hours, I basically said, this is the time you need to buy it because this thing followed my articles and listened to my advice. You had an opportunity to exit with a profit from anywhere, a return of anything from like 300 to 600%, depending on your entry point.
Yeah, I think
is better.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when STC first hit that like 100,000, and it was quite some time ago. But I mean, when I first started, I think I was buying it on Cryptsy.
Wow! Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the home of every steel coin. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a while, but yeah, I mean, just the technology that they've always been working towards has always really seemed attractive to me. I've been bullish on Shadow Cash for a long time. It's definitely one of my longest held coins, I'd say.
Same here. I've held this literally almost as long as I've held Ethereum, and I believe in it as much as I believe in Ethereum.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it might not have all the resources that Ethereum has, but the dev team's really strong. They have a clear vision, and back when they were talking about using the snarks, and when they first introduced the rig signatures, and the wallets have always really been really good. So it's
I'll say this, actually, that was it. That was the thing for me. When I used the Monero node wallet, the simple wallet, I can't remember what it's called now, and it was a command line interface, and I was like, this is 2016. This is not acceptable, period. Even Ethereum had like a basic GUI on their wallet. Even XDN Digital Note, which used the same crypto note protocol as Monero, had a GUI wallet. So it was just not acceptable. And then I used Shadowcat. And by the way, this was not long after, and in this period, Ether was getting DDoS attacks, so Mist was effectively useless for a bunch of us. And in this time of great usability frustration, using Umbra was just like, wow. It felt like using a product that Apple would design. This is the sort of thing that Apple would design. And if they were telling me you're going to build a decentralized marketplace with this level of usability, yeah, it's a fucking no-brainer. Sorry, I hate swearing, but it's a no-brainer to be bullish. It's a fucking no-brainer to be that bullish. And even though on March 17th, that announcement that they'd been sort of leading up to in January, I thought they were going to launch their beta of their marketplace. What I wasn't expecting them to say, right, we're rebranding from Shadow Cache to Particl. Our developers are no longer going to work on Shadow Cache. We're going to work on Particl part. And we're going to need another 9 months. The alpha is done, you know, fine, but we're going to need another 9 months to get the beta. To be fair, we need a bit of extra money, and we're going to need to increase supply. My first reaction to that, it wasn't good. Let me just be honest.
And a lot of people felt disenfranchised.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing for me was I staked my wallet, and I usually keep my coins off exchange. I was at work that day, and within about, you know, the 10-minute difference was enough to see 480 go all the way to 260. I've never seen a coin fall that fast. Yeah. And it was really disheartening not to be able to, I keep more of my coins on exchanges now for this reason whenever this kind of happens. And I talk about security, but I do, keep a stack locked away and a stack on. But yeah, I mean, once the initial shock had worn off, and once, when I saw the first milestone had been reached, that was $250,000 in about 24 hours. And I think I remember speaking to, I can't remember which dev on their team, and he said, it will be reached. I was like, you don't know this. And then I looked through their wallet distributions. I was like, okay, I understand it. Clearly the long-term big holders have gone in. That's great. Then they released more information. And after a while, there were two parts to this. I was like, okay, they want to use this for mainstream transactions. I'm thinking to myself, fine. Yes, this can work. Yes, this is a bigger market. There is going to be more resistance, but actually, there'd be a bit more resistance because mainstream guys will be like, why can't we use Amazon and eBay? Whereas the Alpha Bay guys would have been like, oh, you mean this can't be taken down? Huh? So I can understand. So my initial thoughts were, as an economic project, fine. But actually, the more I sat down and thought about it, I thought more about the sort of tax incentivizations. And I don't think they should address any of this. I think they should do some real consultations with their legal team and actually get their legal team to draft up a document saying what the tax implications of Particl specific to various regionalities are. But when I thought about this, I thought, okay, there's some potential here. And I thought about the when I thought about, grey markets, I thought, okay, fine, you may want to have anonymous transactions of certain goods from one regionality to another. Again, ties into some of the tax efficiency reasons of that. I think of services, there's like a website called Doc Simon's, which caters towards Europe, and they're basically an online pharmacy. They sell nootropics, but they also sell prescription medications. Now, that was a place where you could get nootropics quite readily in they had a UK website, but that actually shut down last year because of the legal implications. Whereas actually, a service like that, which serves a great chunk of like Eastern Europe and chunks of Western Europe, that could easily be running just fine without any worry of takedown on a service like Particl. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'm getting more bullish about this. And actually, I looked through the video series that they released. It takes me a long time to sit through. A 40-minute video is always going to be a bit long, but I sat and watched it. And actually, they kind of covered a lot of the stuff that, they covered a lot of the concerns that I had. They actually answered all their concerns in the forum, but they actually showed me that they really have put a lot of thought into this. So, once again, I don't know quite how we got here, but it comes down to the whole SDC to Particl thing. I think a lot of people may have a sore taste in their mouth, and I think most of the people who do are going to be the ones who bought after the 8th of March, the 8th of February, whatever my last post on that topic was, the 48-hour window, because those were the ones who were basically FOMO buying into the pump, and they unfortunately, I thought this was going to be one of these buy the news events, which is a bit of a unicorn event because you often get buy the rumor, sell the news events. Nautilus coin, we've got a new website coming out, and then people go, oh, why is it pumping? We must have a new website. Great, it's happening. Whereas actually, it's market manipulation. Whereas with Shadow Cash and this, I thought this was going to be beta launch of the marketplace, which would have been a reversal of that usual paradigm, because 90% of these rumor events are buy rumor, sell news, which a smart trader should be: sell the rumor, buy the news. That's my advice. 90% of the time on these events, that's what you should be doing. So, I think a lot of people got their fingers burned, but 95% of SDC holders, 95% of SDC was held by the top 1,000 owners. And if you look at the distributions and the Particl crowd fund, not much has really changed. If anything, I think distribution's probably improved a little, because it's actually 1,500. So there's a few more people that have clearly come on board, from what I can see.
Yeah, it looks like it. And so yeah, they reached the 750,000. Look at that. That's pretty great. I'm happy for them.
I'm really happy for them, man.
Yeah, we're like 1.5 million SDC are still not converted, so it looks like...
For me, that's secretly the best part, because even though they had a 15% inflation, so when they first dropped the announcement, you're thinking, oh shit, the basic value at this moment of my holdings has gone down by 15 as a psychological thing. Mm-hmm. Whereas actually, there's been no real change economically in terms of, you're probably going to wind up you'll get a cut of that now. As you were saying, but only 5 million have been converted, which means that there's about, what is that? Is it 20% of the supply?
Let's see. Left to go? Looks like about that. There's 76.84% has been converted already.
So actually, anyone who's put money into this, it's not that they're getting a 15% haircut. Firstly, the 15% haircut in coin supply is about to get negated, and you're going to get a small bonus on top of that.
Right.
That's kind of like the icing on the cake for anyone who put their belief behind this thing. And I think when you're making long-term investments, that's what you commit. You have stacks that you commit with for long-term, and you have stacks that you trade with for short-term.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I converted on day one. So, I mean, at this point, well, it's over now, I believe. But the bonus was not even worth it after a certain point. But I'm still super bullish on it, because I don't know, I still believe in Particl wholeheartedly.
Oh gosh, honestly, but for the first 48 hours of that, from March 17th to March 19th, I converted. I think so I'll be upfront. I sold about 50, was it? How much was it? I sold 50% of my stack immediately, just to make as much of that profit as I could on that falling knife. And then when it kind of settled, within 24 hours, I bought about, in the end, I had about 70%. And within 24 hours, 90%. So basically, most of the SDC, a large chunk of the SDC within 24 hours I held, and I gave the BTC for that crowd fund, because actually I wanted to see it succeed.
Me too. Yeah, I mean, one, you get the bonus, but I wanted to also just contribute,
I think no matter how much bad blood, the core idea, the core idea underlying this, in some ways, it hasn't changed. It's decentralized marketplace with transactions are anonymizable. People can do with what, and it has built, all the other things built in governance, and having sort of a legal foundation now to kind of act as a safeguard for the development team. Believe me, if you've ever run a limited company, you'll understand the importance of that. I think there's a lot of sensible decisions that have been made, and I was bearish in the 48-hour period, and I was kind of cool for about a week or two, but now starting to really see a lot of the stuff, and especially in the last week, the stuff that I'm seeing out. I don't know, there's some of the videos that have just been released literally Particle Explainer videos, or all the little things, the newsletters, it's all looking like a much more organized, transparent effort on their behalf. And I respect them for that. And I respect going through those videos. It's, I was thinking, why don't they just try and raise like several million in one round like everyone else is doing? But when they explained it, I was like, that's cool.
Yeah. It's
a
project.
I won't speculate on what sort of price I have, but to be honest, I bought SDC because I think it will make me a fortune someday, or I had, and I converted most of it to Particl because I think that will make me a fortune if I'm right. I hold it for the same reason. I love both projects, spiritually, ideologically, what they're trying to achieve. I'm completely... you can see that we're doing this voice only. You don't see my face. And, you're not... Joskye's a super about privacy. I'm very conscious of the ways information can be used and abused against you. I've grown up in political environments, and I've seen how things get misused, and how I've of power in all sorts of organizations at any capacity, or even misusing it. And it's not... privacy actually gives you a nice shield from it to one extent. The reason I'm doing this is because hearing attacks, I don't want people finding out, because I don't want them doing what the attacks is actually very easy. And I think it's something I'd like to people to just be aware of about cryptocurrencies, is be really open and communicative about the actual sums. I don't give out the actual sums I play with. They're not as big as some of the other guys. I'm going to say that they're bigger than some, as big as some of the big players by a long way. At the same time, it's very easy to get email address once you've got the string of actions you can do to then unlock someone, and then it's too easy. Actually, it's ridiculous, and it's having a focus on private communications, I'm much more fond of.
Which is another cool thing about Particl.
Yeah,
there's going to be a lot of good encrypted communication ability.
I mean that they're going to have the built-in sort of private communication. So you've got encrypted messaging within, so you can do encrypted group messaging. And for me, it's kind of, because it exists on a decentralized software framework, that's quite good. In the UK, they recently passed the Snoopers Charter Act, which means that if the UK government feels that a software is being misused to promote terrorism, go directly into that person's account, they can demand that company door into the entire service they provide. So they could demand that WhatsApp, for example, gives them a backdoor key to go and look at anyone's account at will, or Facebook, or even just various forms of email, or any encryption service. They like, well, we think that these guys have to be using your service and your software, your encrypted software, to do nefarious things. We don't want to access their accounts. We want to backdoor to the whole setup. And I think that compromises security. That potentially compromises a lot of software solutions potentially that are being delivered to the UK if that backdoor is used. Because, as we all know, as soon as there's a backdoor, some hacker's going to find it, and they'll exploit it. And that so-called encrypted secure system, as soon as it's not secure at all. It's just time, which was an ironic statement to use in the context of terrorism. But yeah, it is literally a security time bomb. allowing yourself to. So how decentralized services where you can't implement these sorts of features easily is a real strength, and the crypto community can look forward to moving forward. But yeah, I think, to be honest, we could talk all day if you want to. I'm conscious of the fact that we're probably running an hour, 14 minutes in, and probably our audience at this point might want to take a break. I'm happy to talk to you anytime, my man.
Sure, and we'd love to have you back on. Hopefully we could get Dealer back on one of these days. I don't know what happened, but he did say he had some stuff going on this weekend.
If Dealer's off dealing somewhere, it's all cool. It's all cool. Dealer's got to do what Dealer's got to do.
Yeah, right.
It's really nice to chat to Dealer and actually, have another chat with you guys. I'm sorry I kind of rambled on a bit. I've got a lot to say on this subject.
It was excellent. That's just what we wanted,
And I have plenty more to say, but at the same time, I really hope that you guys, push your content out there, get these sorts of messages into the mainstream and to the crypto communities. I think it's important for people to really consider the broader implications of blockchain technology. I work in the medical field. My professional background is as an emergency medicine doctor. I can see applications of smart. I was literally discussing the idea of a blockchain that just records death and births. Why have I know death and birth. Your birth certificates and your death certificates, why should they be pieces of paper, right, or centralized records, which could get fried when they could exist on a decentralized blockchain, and that would be amendable, but you've got that history there, as it were, to allow for correction. So, I think that's just one example. I'm not even going to start going into the other probably patentable ideas that go through my head, but, you could sit down, people. You wouldn't happen to be a programmer, would you?
No, I'm not actually.
But I wouldn't mind collaborating with you or a few other guys that happen to be, happening in the space, because I think there's a lot of solutions that blockchain technology can provide. It being speculative.
Yeah. I mean, even Social Security numbers are almost like a private key for people.
Exactly. I don't think, I was at a conference in Sri Lanka. This was the Commonwealth. It was a Commonwealth conference of all things. And this was in November of last year. And out of nowhere, one of these guys, it was a Commonwealth Healthcare Conference on digital healthcare, and actually brought up Ethereum.
Huh.
They outright brought up Ethereum and said, look, we Sri Lanka, which was where this was held, we want Sri Lanka to be the first country that utilizes distributed ledger technology in its healthcare sector.
Huh.
That's quite a bold claim to make.
Yeah.
And I got super excited because I asked him specifically if he meant Ethereum, and he said that's one of the technologies we were considering. This is at the time when, to be honest, the only real technology at that time for this was Ethereum and probably Hyperledger. But I think they wanted to build their own custom chains. But, that is a big step to take for someone who represents, and the guy was an advisor to the Ministry of Health in that country.
Wow.
So, again, I'm keeping this short because I could go on for 3 or 4 hours. But the point I'm getting at is that this thing is going to be huge. And people are going to say, it's speculative, the fundamentals, generating revenue. Not yet. Give it 9 months. It's like a baby. It needs time to grow.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the future, and whether people want to admit it or not, it's going to play a big part in technology going forward. I mean, everything's kind of pointing towards crypto. Holes are opening up in markets where crypto would nestle in quite nicely. And it may be a little bit speculative, but because you don't know exactly which coins are going to be either newly created for specific tasks or whether they're going to adopt older ones. But
Mhm.
it's the technology is it's undeniable, you know.
Completely. Just sort of in closing, Alyssa, just playing off your point, it's difficult to say which coins really make it, but if you're looking at growth right now, comparing this year to last, I had a chat with one of my colleagues for this podcast, and he literally brought up that of the, Stratis, Arc, all the coins that were trading, Factum was trading at maybe $2 last year. It's now doing 580. Stratis was trading at 6,000 satoshis, which is like barely 10 cents. Now it's 80 cents. There's about 20 different cryptocurrencies that I think of, which people commonly talk about. And had you simply bought these things a year ago when people were talking about these ones, the same ones by just holding will have gone up around 200 to 300% in value, most of them.
Yeah.
And
so you just gotta hold, That's
yeah.
It's kind of almost become a meme, like the hold with the HODL, but it's true. I mean, as long as you, and we've talked about this with dealers as well. If you hold a coin and you believe in it, and the devs keep working on it, and it's not just going by the wayside, you're gonna pull profit eventually.
Yeah, definitely. And even if you buy at a high, my first buy 9 months ago when I got back into cryptocurrency, I bought 50-50 Bitcoin and Ethereum. And it was at the point when Bitcoin was 400. I did the first trader mistake. I was like, oh, it's already too. No, I didn't buy at 400. I'll tell you what I did with Bitcoin. I bought Ether at like 10 and it went to. Anyway, but Bitcoin was 400 and I was like waiting for my money to arrive on the exchange, so I could convert the fiat to Bitcoin. It was taking ages. And I watched Bitcoin gradually creep to $600. I was like, oh, it's too expensive now. I missed out. So I was having proper FOMO. And I eventually kept watching. It's like, oh, it's going to stop. It's going to stop. And then it went to 780. I thought, shit, this thing is going right up to 1,200. I bought right at the peak. And I wound up playing about 650. I wound up. That was my first trade, and within a week, I was trading off the loss on that. Thankfully, Ether cancelled that out. It was just prior to the DAO. But as I said, if you hold the fundamentals, if the fundamentals, because people say, some traders and some investors will go, well, the fundamentals, what non-speculative revenue does it generate? The fundamentals is good as you working at it, the likely. And this is one thing I'm going to say because my entry into a lot of this is through the intelligent side, the FTC and by right part. To buy these things at something like SDC at a peak, loss will convert to Particl. And truthfully, if you believe premise of the sort of project that Particl, then stick by your guns and convert. Probably a little late to be saying that now, but for future reference, I think a lot of people, when you make a buy, that's when the mentality of investing is different to the mentality of day trading, and they use fundamentally different. Investing is about value propositions. It's about what is the non-speculative revenue this can draw. What is the potential audience? Are they going to use it? Are the developers behind this good? Have they made this thing easy and accessible? Whereas when you look at day trading and week trading, you're looking at what's the daily trading volume? What is the support? What is the resistance? What is the order book looking like today? And they're two totally different sets of values. I like to maintain that investing is simply trading on the time frame. And I had an online little argument like 2 days ago where it was just like, it was basically trying to say you can make more money day trading, which is true if you know how to make money day trading. But equally, if you don't know how to day trade, but you know how to invest, just invest. And learn how to day trade. Because honestly, the number of unrealized profits I have right now from some people have a hard time predicting the longs. I don't. That's not bragging. I have a good. I'm getting an increasingly good knack for seeing when something's going to go up in value. What I haven't yet worked out is when to sell, because seeing the peak can be really difficult in this, and letting greed get the better of you. You need to have enough to just sort of let these things rise. Right now, ARC, for example, I don't know when to sell. I've set a provisional target of around 30,000 satoshis. The more I think about it, the more I think, well, if I just hold hard, I could sell to make that my principal. Once it goes to 30,000, I bought less than that, but make a principal and a bit of profit, and hold on to the rest because it'll probably go up just fine. And then you've been diversified, and then you're in another market, and then you do the same thing, try to double it or more, eventually get out with half. Sorry, that's me.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had better luck with longs. I'm not the most successful day trader. I've had some luck with certain coins, but the longs have always been the ones that worked out for me better in the end. Whether it be Monero, or Shadow, or Ethereum.
I think Ethereum was an amazing example of this. Watching it go to about 80, I have to admit, I've been capitulating on the way down, and I bought small bit back up, but not as much as my original stack. So it did go from from 680 to around 10, and then did that dive, that jump right up to 50. I have to admit, it was a little bit heartbreaking because I had stack. But you learn.
Yep. That's the way the cookie crumbles in crypto.
But yeah, now in really closing from mind, I'll say, look, there are quite a few good assets to go along with. I think you can make some decent returns. My full disclosure, I'm long on Ethereum, Particl, Rep. I am long on ICN in spite of my grumblings over it. But I did retain principle on that a long time ago. And then there's a couple of other things that I'm cautiously long on. Right now, I do have some long open positions on ARC. LBRY library credits. Yep, I see the potential in that. Gosh, I don't have my phone. I don't have my Blockfolio app in front of me, so
Pivx, right?
I can't tell you. But I can tell you right now that there's quite a few projects that, even though I don't hold longs in them, I'm actually quite bullish on. Mm-hmm. And as loath as I am to saying this, Stratis actually one. I'm long on ARC. But there's a couple of Factum. I don't hold any of that, but I'm actually quite positive on that one.
Which?
Yeah, Factum.
Oh,
there's a few that I wanted to open up longs in, but it just comes down to risk management at the end of the day. You should only play with what you really can afford to lose. And your aim should be to make those stacks grow, to recover your principles in those stacks, and diversify to other good assets from there. And that way you're decreasing risk whilst increasing reward.
Right. Exactly. So Yep.
But yeah, I think I'm good for the evening now. I hope that's been really useful, and I hope that you appreciated that.
It's been wonderful having you on. We'd love to have you on again. I'm afraid Crypto Dealer couldn't make it, but next week you should be back, and we have another guest coming on next week. But in the future, we'd love to have you back on because you had some really good insights and interesting point of views. So
Thanks.
It was a good time, and I thank you for coming on. And,
no worries, man.
All right, so we'll see everybody next week.
Cool. All right, catch you guys.
Have a good one. Happy trading and profits to all.
Trade wise. Thanks.